Sorry? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you, Anton. I was on a different link from the calendar invite. I was wondering why weren't you letting me in?
Yes, loud and clear.
I had two calendar invites for the event today, and one of them had a different Teams event link. And that's the one I joined, and it didn't have this title that it has now. It just says, I can tell you, it just says Microsoft Teams. Someone will let you in when the meeting starts. While this one had a different title.
How did you get to that link again?
From your calendar invite. It's in my
Weird.
calendar. Yeah, I can send you a screenshot.
That is weird. I'm really sorry about it. What the hell did that? I'm losing my marbles, I think. I am definitely losing my marbles. It doesn't make sense. Um, Very weird. All right, never mind. We are here now. I think there's only one missing, and that is Mike. Let's see. No, can't see him anywhere. So there's the three of us. Might be a good idea. We just get going, and hopefully, whenever Mike joins us, then we just take it from there. Okie dokie. This is live on the live streams. Perfect. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. This is Startup Product and Tech Q&A. It's our 177th session. We've been doing these for over 4.5 years now, almost 5 years, where we seek to help startups like yourselves to build your early stage product and tech. So I've got together a brilliant panel of product and tech experts who've been there and done it in startup land. And they're going to take any questions we may have in terms of that journey of yours as you build your early stage. There are no wrong questions, by the way, and there's no need to be shy, as it's a learning curve for us all. So in terms of how we do things today, well, we're going to try and keep it quite straightforward. We'll have some quick introductions. Then we'll open it for some do's and don'ts when it comes to early stage building. And then we will be taking questions from the founders seeking to get ideas or perhaps clarity as you build your early stage. And your questions, by the way, can be on anything to do with product and tech. Let's say product roadmaps, prototypes, design, landing pages, automation, low to no code, full stacks, maybe how to build an app, or testing, or launching your MVP, and anything in between or beyond for that matter. This is the place to be for the next 54 minutes. For those of you that are on the live streams, whether you're on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, please be aware that unfortunately we are unable to monitor your questions there live. So if you want to ask us anything, you'll have to do it here on Microsoft Teams. The quickest way to join us is to go onto our website, startuptoscaleup.club. So again, it's startuptoscaleup.club. You scroll down a little bit, you'll find today's session, which is Startup Product and Tech Q&A 177. You click join. It's a quick registration on Luma. That gets you onto the schedule, and there you'll find today's link. It's audio only, which means you'll be able to tune in and join us from anywhere via any platform or device. Once you're here, simply drop your question in the chat. We'll give you the mic, introduce yourself, and then fire away with whatever questions that you may have for our panelists. Now, without further ado, some quick introductions. My name's Anton Call. I'm an Albanian in London, working with startups normally right after they get investment. I embed within their teams and help them hire and keep the right people. I also do some growth advisory work with a few other startups and accelerators, and help some angels and family offices with their due diligence and their assessments. I guess today we can start in the same order that we joined. So we'll go with Eugenio, Alfonso, and then Redian, please. Introduce yourselves, fellas.
Hi, everyone. I am Eugenio Gugliotto, product-led fractional CTO, senior agentic engineer, and serial founder. Currently, I lead the tech teams across USA, UK, Australia, and Italy, with relevant agentic AI applications in production in fashion and real estate. I've also been part of accelerators like Entrepreneur First and On Deck, co-founded a VC scale startup in the Bay Area, and founded the various other startups in different industries. I also support startups on hiring and how to 10x their software engineering productivity with vibe coding strategies. And I am here to improve your way to build impactful stuff.
Hi there, my name is Alfonso. I'm a lead product designer working at a company called Sneak. It's a cybersecurity company. I specialized in designing all sorts of software, but especially enterprise and domain specific. So anything from cybersecurity to banking as well. I work through the entire product life cycle. So any questions you have, be it from research and trying to understand what problems your customers have, through to ideating on how to address those problems, and then testing and eventually, building that solution and seeing how it lands. I can help you with that.
Again, it's your turn, buddy. You with us?
Sorry. So yeah, I'm here. Sorry, I didn't remember the order. I'm Redian, software engineer with over 20 years experience in technology. Arrived in London about 16 years ago, and I've been stuck here. Worked on startups, scale-ups, enterprises, and then about 5.5 years ago set up a small development studio. We work with clients across the UK, Europe, and the US to build POCs, MVPs, early stage product hypothesis testing and the sorts, mainly in digital products, web, mobile, scalable architectures, event-based, with a very strong focus on automation and testing. So yeah, hopefully I can add some value to conversations, and happy to help.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you very much for that, gentlemen. Now, in these 4.5, almost 5 years, we've had about 290,000 people that tuned in as we answered about 3,000 questions from founders. And none of that would have happened without the 3 panelists and their other fellow panelists, almost or around 300, if I'm not mistaken. So if you chaps would like to drop your LinkedIn URLs in the chat, maybe a couple of words about what is it that you focus on when it comes to startup product and tech, that would be great. As you do that, then maybe we can go on to some do's and don'ts. If we can start with Afonso, then Redian, and last but not least, Eugenio, please. What is a do and a don't, especially? I mean, you can go to more than one, but at least one that is important to you when it comes to early stage product and tech. And please don't use the same logic for both the do and the don't. So Afonso, Redian, and Eugenio, please.
Sure. I will talk about talking to customers today. We talk about it frequently. I think that's definitely a do talk to customers, but I wanted to be a bit more specific about that. One really important thing that I usually notice there's a lack of is really understanding who you're talking to. So that's my do's, is like understand before you even talk to customers, understand your customers, understand like whether the buyer, the person who you reach out to for the contract, is the same as the end user. Especially in a business to business, many times it's different. You have a buyer and you have an end user. So do understand those. And then whenever you're going to talk to them, do scope that conversation accordingly. And an example of a don't will be if you go on to a conversation, which is more like a relationship building conversation, where you're talking to the buyer and really making sure that you're maintaining that relationship. It's okay to go into a demo, right? You demo the last thing you've built, you're excited about it, you're getting some feedback. That's great. That kind of feedback is great from a relationship building point of view. It is not good from a testing point of view. So if you do then want to actually test, make sure you identify the end user. So that would a bit of a different format today, but hopefully that level of detail also helps in understanding like the do's and the don'ts of talking to customers.
I think it's my turn, isn't it, right, Anton? I would probably say, as a do, embrace a way of thinking that all requirements are wrong. And when you do that, as your idea, product, MVP evolves, hopefully you will be in the right mindset of easily pivoting and updating your hypothesis. Sometimes founders and builders get so fixated on certain requirements, or maybe even they're too strict on what they want to build and how they want to build it, to a point where they miss, like huge opportunities, especially when they start interacting with their target audience, as Eugenia mentioned. You learn a lot. So if you go in with a mentality that all the requirements written by whoever they were written, there's always something wrong with them. Um, and you will find them as soon as you start to put them to practice and build that product, and then you'll figure out that, an assumption that was made somewhere down the line is probably not correct and needs changing and potentially going in a different direction. So yeah, that's what I would say. Don't get too hung up on and too rigid on the requirements until you get that validation from your end users. That's my...
You're again. Yes, Eugenio.
Yeah. So on the do, I would say do position yourself before the first line of code, and change that position according to your discoveries. But always be positioned early. Just to give an idea about the impact of positioning, recently I've read the Jensen Huang biography, and he said that he didn't understand positioning at the very beginning of the GPU history. And by reading an exceptional book that's called Positioning by Al Rice, he has been able to position NVIDIA in the market and then be successful. Now, that book is brilliant, really brilliant, and it suggests that you should always be clearly positioned against the market and against the users. So even if they are not the right users from the product market fit perspective, you definitely want to have a clear position so that you can start from that position and evolve it over time. On the don't, do not accept 2 week customer interviews to make you decide about the whole journey. This is a temptation. Like there's one person saying, "Oh, great, I love this," and you go for it just based on a very small evidence. So you definitely want to have way more evidence in terms of number of users, but at the same time, don't underestimate the instinct, your instinct specifically, because a couple of decades ago, people wanted faster horses rather than cars. So definitely put evidence, but also follow your instinct.
Thank you very much for that, gentlemen. Eugenio, can I ask you a favor? Would you mind on LinkedIn, where the live stream is, you'll see I've tagged you there. It should be the last tag. In the comments, would you mind finding a link to that book, maybe on Amazon, or at least the title and author, in case others want to go through it? Is that all right?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks a lot. Right here. Now, we have got 41 minutes to go. This is Startup Product and Tech Q&A. We're here to help you as you build your early stage product and tech. We're taking questions on anything to do with that product and tech building stage. If you're not speaking, by the way, gentlemen, please mute because it's creating a bit of an echo. And so, in terms of how this works, is you drop your question in the chat. We'll give you the mic, introduce yourself, and then fire away with any questions you have. So those questions, as I said, could be on anything from product roadmap to design, prototype, landing pages, apps, testing, automation, full stack, low to no codes, launching your MVP, and anything else in between or beyond for that matter. There are no wrong questions. If your questions are on other matters, please save them for the other conversations that we run. Mondays is talent, Tuesdays product and tech, Wednesdays growth, Thursdays fundraising, second Friday of each month is UK startup law, and third Friday of each month is UK startup finances. They're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. They're all available online on our site, startuptoscaleup.club. And when you go there, you also may want to join our WhatsApp community. We've got some amazing groups of founders, investors, operators, and of course, our second to none panelists. Now, let's go on to question one. This is a health tech founder in Edinburgh, used to work for the NHS. Problem: developing a telehealth platform focused on preventive care for underserved populations. So underserved, not undeserved, sorry. That's what she's trying to solve. And the question she has is, we need to ensure that our telehealth platform is accessible to those with limited internet access. Should we focus on optimizing mobile experiences or provide alternative access points like community health centers? What measures should we implement to ensure that our platform is effective and reaches those most in need? I wouldn't have thought that nowadays in Edinburgh, connection would be such an issue, unless you are maybe going after a different demographic somewhere else and not in Edinburgh. Then that's another story. I wish you were here. Okay, let's start with Redian, then Eugenio, then Afonso, and let's take about a minute each, please. By the way, it's totally fine if it's not your bag to say pass.
Yeah, as someone who's worked in telemedicine and telehealth in the past, I can relate to that. Obviously, I'm biased. I'm an engineer, so I'm always looking for potential solutions to problems. So in this case, I would most probably look at alternatives, alternative solutions um, to underserved populations, potentially in rural areas across the world. And if internet is an issue, then you might want to look at other alternatives, things like text messaging, SMS, and other technology solutions that could potentially give access to your target audience. In terms of I think when the person mentions community health centers, is referring to like physical clinics. I guess that obviously will be an option, but if those people could get into those the health centers, then why would they be underserved? Maybe I'm not fully understanding it, but personally, I would suggest alternative technology solutions to people with not good internet access, or maybe even Starlink. I don't know. Maybe they can consider setting up some smart Starlink hotspots around these areas that you could potentially give internet access to those people. So this is what I would add to that. That's me. Who's next?
Me. Yeah, I wouldn't add too much to it. Connectivity is the basis for the communication. So it depends also on the budget, on how much people spend, and maybe you can also offer this service possibly through Starlink itself. So if the infrastructure is not there, you may want to introduce it as part of the services, or to use the traditional communication systems like phone calls, for example, or SMS. In that case, your technology should be like a voice agent rather than a mobile app potentially, or some other extremely creative solutions like using the phone network to transfer information, like internet 30 years ago. So there's a couple of creative options. I think this is the last one is the most creative one, and yeah, not much to say about that.
I think my fellow panelists already covered quite a bit. I think my take would be slightly different depending on what we mean by limited access. I don't understand whether that's like limited plans, for example, because they only rely on their phone plans and they don't have like their Wi-Fi, or is it the connection itself? I think those would kind of help shape an idea. But aside from that, I have two thoughts. So one is, if it's pre-seed, it's a lot of what. The main thing that is important at this stage is validating the idea. So if you have the opportunity to leverage community health centers as sort of like bridge points, then that's probably a good start. Probably a good way to validate the idea, see how it works out before investing a lot in tech. But at the same time, if that and if that goes well, I wouldn't necessarily consider one or the other. So it could be an hybrid solution where, for some customers or for some type of approach, you can use an app or a progressive web app, like a digital solution that they can use from their own home. And for that, you already know that it's a different type of solution, is potentially more tailored, and it comes with the requirements of a more stable internet connection. But you do know that there is another option that can be used either as a fallback or just for different types of approaches that relies on those health centers.
Thank you very much, Alfonso. Righty, let's now go on to another question. Again, for those of you that are on the live streams, we are unable to monitor your questions there live. So if you've got any questions for us, anything to do with your product and tech, you'll need to join us here on Microsoft Teams. It's audio only, which means you can tune in from anywhere via any platform or device. Quickest way to join us is to go onto our website, startuptoscaleup.club. Again, the website, it's startuptoscaleup.club. You scroll down a little bit, you'll find today's session, which is Startup Product and Tech Q&A 177. You then register on Luma, and there on Luma, you'll find the link for the Microsoft Teams call. Once you're here, then simply drop your question in the chat. We'll give you the mic, introduce yourself, and then fire away with your questions. Our next question is from Newcastle. So they've got a tech for neurodiversity. They're pre-seed. The person used to work in SENCO, that's special education, or special education needs, I think it's called. So what they're trying to do is to build an app that helps neurodiverse children develop social skills through gamified interactions. The question they have is, we want to ensure our app is engaging for children with different forms of neurodiversity. Should we build multiple versions of the app to accommodate specific needs, i.e. ASD versus ADHD, or create a flexible platform with customizable settings? How do we ensure the design is stimulating without overwhelming children who might struggle with sensory overload? As somebody who's a father to an autistic and also ADHD kids, what can I don't think this is from not with a father of autistic child hat, but with the sort of startup hat. You don't want to start building too many versions of the app. That would be my number one thing. The second part is, you started this business, you're the SENCO person, you should have the idea what to start with first. So my advice is, start with one thing that you know there's most need and you can provide most value. I'll go at the end with something I call wins, but I'll let the experts go first and see what they've got to say. So maybe we can start with Afonso, then Eugenio, and then Redian, please.
Sure. I couldn't agree more. I would say that don't build too many versions to begin with. Try to narrow down on one of them and then see how it works. What you could potentially do if you want to explore multiple versions is don't build them, is just research them out, like try to understand more about that scenario and how would that build out. And potentially what you might be able to leverage is if they have similarities, if you can identify there's a lot of overlaps. But in terms of like building and testing, I agree with Anton, and definitely like start small, and start testing it out. I'll also touch on customization settings. So I would be very mindful of that. That's usually there's a concept in like product design called flexibility trade-offs, and I know it's really appealing to start thinking like customizing things, but it's when done too early. Though it's appealing because we think, okay, this might serve many use cases, it often comes short because it doesn't do anything well. It does a bit of everything, but it doesn't do anything well. So I would start with one, and then eventually, if you start identifying patterns and things in common, you can go the customization route. As a bit of a bonus there, like when it comes to customization, there is two things we usually think about. So one is system customization, and the other one is user personalization. And these two things sometimes are confused, but they are quite different. System customization is more about your system adapting to a specific use case. User personalization is adapting to a specific individual. So it's the kind of things that you log onto an application and it says, hello Afonso and kind of thing. So they are very different, and there's not enough time here to go into detail, but I would encourage looking a bit more into that. The second bit about ensuring the design is stimulating without overwhelming, I think that is where you should partner with subject matter experts and get some of their support as well, because I understand this is a sensitive area, right? And sensory overload, it will be a big risk in this case. So I don't have that much to add on that.
So one of my past projects was required to have 9 different apps on their own. So starting from the same code base, but they had various customizations, and that was, of course, strictly necessary because of the nature of the business. But it was a nightmare, because for every deployment, you should have done like a lot of like per app customization, a lot of specific problems here and there to solve. And apart from this overhead, that's in my opinion totally useless in this case specifically. Another important aspect is that when you have more use cases, you will have to add a new app for every use case, which is very dangerous, because at that point you cannot unify everything under one app. Instead, as previously suggested, you should identify the user customization, or at least user cluster customization, in order to make sure that if you have one flow for ASD versus ADHD, these flows are defined in the app, but they are granular components of the experience of that user part of that cluster. So I would definitely heavily optimize one app to be like simple and allow to have a simple navigation flow, even with the custom use cases, rather than having multiple apps.
All right, I guess it's my turn. I think most of the um, areas were definitely covered by the previous panelists. The only additional bit that I would add is yes, stick to one up, but think about personalization and how you go about offering a personalized experience depending on the needs. Um, that would mean that, for example, an ADHD kid could potentially have a different experience as opposed to another kid with different needs. You can use tools like there's a lots of tools in the market that you can use to create personalization experience or even A/B testing or feature flagging and releasing your features um, as and when uh, needed or applicable. So yeah, in addition to everything else, I would recommend tools like, I don't know, Launch Darkly, Optimizely, Firebase. Firebase also has some, what's that? Um, I forgot the name now, but they do have a relative good tool to, sorry, I'm just looking at Firebase at the moment, and that you could switch, or you can improve your the audiences. Maybe not. Anyway, but there is very maybe config. Sorry, I think it's called config that you could use to customize your app experience. So yeah, that's what I would add. One up with a smart way of personalizing the experience to for relevance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Radian, can I kindly ask you the same thing that I asked Eugenio earlier? Those tools that you mentioned, would you mind finding them for us and putting it as comment in the live stream? I've tagged you, so you'll be able to easily find it. And just add it as a comment, because I think that can be quite useful, not necessarily just for these guys working on this neurodiversity app, but even for quite a few other startups, because we tend to get similar. Sorry, not in the chat here again, not in the chat here on Microsoft Teams, but on LinkedIn. So when you look at LinkedIn,
cool.
you'll see I've tagged you. So in the last tag, you'll see there's a live stream there, and if you don't mind, because that's easier for people to find. Now, I mentioned at the beginning in terms of you being Senko, therefore you needing to work on something that you know there's needs and you know that you can add value. The chaps here might have heard me say this before, so apologies, panelists, but there's something I call NWIDs that I see that can be quite a brilliant sort of North Star, a guiding light to you, to you starting up properly and not building something that there's no need out there. You see, unfortunately, over 90% of startups fail, and the top one reason, so the number one reason, is market fit. Now, N stands for need. So you've got to think, what is the need you're trying to fulfill? What is the problem you're trying to solve? And you obviously got to put in the research on that. W, it's for want. So you got to think, who's going to need this? Who's going to want this? Who's going to pay for it? And how are you going to get them, one, to use it, but also to pay for it? I stands for innovation. What are you bringing new to the fore? What is it you're trying to do that is not already out there? D stands for disruption. Basically, pretty much, who are you going to need to steal clients from? And S stands for scalability. is this thing scalable? Is it really worth doing this? I.e., are you gonna make money from it? Are you gonna be able to put it in the hands of enough people so that it pretty much changes their lives? There's one of the chaps that has recently started joining our panels on Wednesday on growth, Camel Williams. He's got this term I really like, that nowadays, if what you're trying to launch is not at least 10 times better than what's out there in the market, there's no point, because you're just going to struggle. It's not about doing something 10% better. I mean, of course, unless you've got billions of money to throw at it, then that's another story. But if it's not 10 times better than what's out there, you're really going to struggle. So think of that, and then really go niche. And I mean as niche as you bleeding possibly can. And again, going back to S for scalability, you then got to think, what is it you have to scale this? And what is it that you don't have that you need to get? Maybe look at some kind of product roadmap, and also a canvas, a business canvas model. That can be quite helpful. Rightio, it's now 12:42. We've got about 18 minutes to go, so I'm going to read another question. I'm the co-founder of an IoT platform in Birmingham that collects sensor data. We're interested in IAC to automate our deployments across IAC's, what is it, infrastructure as a, what is, oh my God.
Infrastructure code.
Infrastructure as a code, is that right? Sorry, did I hear that right?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. So IAC, so infrastructure as code to automate our deployments across various locations. How can we structure IAC for flexibility, given that each location has slightly different requirements? Are there frameworks that support customization whilst maintaining a consistent code base? Interesting. How about this? Let's start with Redian. Then we'll go on to, Afonso. And last but not least, Eugenio, please. Let's try and take about a minute each and be as concise as we can.
Sorry, is IAC or okay, IoT. Sorry, I missed the question. Just give me 2 seconds.
No, that's all right. It's in the chat. That's okay. Eugenio, do you want to go first? And then we go to Redian and then Afonso.
Yeah, so there are 2 frameworks I'd suggest. The first one is Terraform, inevitably, which is one of the leading solutions for these things. And another one is Pulumi, which is a Python framework that allows you to create infrastructure, not so as a code, in the sense that you can write Python or TypeScript code, and so you can use one of these 2 that are very popular today, and then you can easily, of course, version them with Git, and you can run any customization, any testing. So they are definitely the 2 top solutions.
Thank you very much, Eugenio.
Yeah, okay.
And guess what I'm going to say next? Sorry, Redian, just 1 second. Eugenio, if you don't mind some links again in the same live streams on LinkedIn, I'd really appreciate that, because I think they could be really useful for others as well. Would that be okay, Eugenio?
Yeah, sure.
Good man. Sorry, Redian, go ahead. But
that's fine. Terraform is a very good option. Pulumi, so is Pulumi. To be honest, I haven't used Pulumi in the past commercially. We have used and we continue using Terraform on a daily basis. On top of Terraform, we also have used Terragrams to basically offer the ability to have a bit more reusability across our Terraform templates. We have used CloudFormation in the past. Even in the past lives, even more archaic solutions, Ansible. There was some relatively old Python tools that we used in the past as well for infrastructure and provisioning. But Terraform is a very, very good idea. And in addition to that, we would highly recommend TerraGrunt. I'll drop the links in the chat. But it depends on your requirements. So although Terraform is cloud sort of independent, but there's still nuances depending on which cloud provider you consider using, AWS, GCP, Azure, etc. But yeah, in terms of maintain a consistent and maintainable code base, make sure that you organize things logically, and engineers and your DevOps team can easily reason about your infrastructure. Reproducibility is very important, especially when you investing on infrastructure as code. Consider having or doing exercises like even self-inflicted sort of problems to see how quickly and how resilient your platform infrastructure is, and what is your mean time to recovery. Let's say in a case of a catastrophic event. So think about those scenarios too. You want to have your system and infrastructure as resilient as possible to be able to handle production like massive amounts of data. And from what I see, you're in the IoT business, so it's very important for you to not miss any data. So yeah, that's my suggestion for it.
Thank you very much, Rodan. And again, if there's any tools that you're mentioning, please post them in the LinkedIn live stream. I've actually posted the link to the live stream here on the chat as well, in case you're struggling to find it, because I think it could be useful for the others. I think it's Afonso next, isn't it? Afonso?
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add on this one. I think it's already covered.
Good man. Thank you very much for that. Well, thank you to all. We've got a few more minutes to go, so perhaps time for maybe a couple more questions. We'll now go on to, okay, so we've got a question from a Mancunian. Bear with me, I'm just trying to copy and paste it here. And then I will read it out loud for the live streams. Okay, so, all right, just a second. Good Lord, that took a while. Okay. Right, here it is. Okay, so, okay, I forgot to put which question. Any question 4, let's call it. We're preparing for Series A logistics platform in Manchester, which provides real-time vehicle tracking. Currently, location updates lag, especially when multiple vehicles are being tracked simultaneously. Could you recommend techniques for optimizing our code for faster data processing? And should we consider an edge computing approach to improve the immediacy of location data updates? Again, the question is in the chat for the panelists to read or refer to. I will read it out loud again for the live stream. So we're preparing for a Series A. We're a logistics platform in Manchester, which provides real-time vehicle tracking. Currently, location updates lag, especially when multiple vehicles are being tracked simultaneously. Could you recommend techniques for optimizing our code for faster data processing? And should we consider an edge computing approach to improve the immediacy of location data updates? Redian, you okay to take this? And then
Yeah.
then
Well, I guess there's,
Eugenio, and last but not least, Afonso, please. Go ahead.
yeah, I guess, yeah, that's good. I guess firstly we'll need to start with a few questions. It'd be great. It would have been great if the founder was in this room, so we could have asked those questions. So, what is your, the scope of your platform? Is this a global, like, monitoring system for real-time logistics, like vehicles, ships, cars, planes, whatever? Or is it like geolocated within the UK, for example? But either way, I think optimizing for that, for data collection closer to your devices, it's definitely a good idea. So trying to pick up those signals as quickly as possible. It would be much faster, let's say, for one of your peripheral devices to give you those pings if your server or microserver or edge function was co-located with the device. For example, if you had a distributed system that is picking up those data as closer to the endpoints, it would mean less latency. The other bit, to be honest, at least from what I gather from the question, he says the real-time location updates are getting laggy when there's multiple vehicles. What does he mean by multiple? Are we talking about, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of vehicles, or are we talking about 10? If we're talking about 10, then most probably it's an indicator that possibly something on the data processing part requires optimization, especially on the database side of things. If you're doing heavy data processing and nested queries, etc., you might want to optimize for those, indexing, simplifying your SQL queries, for example, or looking at alternative ways. And also, it also depends on the volume of data. Other techniques that you could use to optimize for that would be, segmenting your database, sharding. You might even want to consider like patterns that are better suited for such large volume data processing. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot that can be improved, but it needs to be contextualized to the use case. But I'll let the other panelists also give some ideas and suggestions.
Thank you very much again. I doubt they're dealing with hundreds and thousands and millions of vehicles, to be honest. But then you never know. I think we said Eugenio and then Afonso, didn't we? Eugenio?
Yeah. So the first thing is that the location data is not that big. We are talking about 16 bytes. And let's say, for example, you do like one location per second. It would be like 16 bytes per 60. And this means that in any case, each vehicle doesn't transfer that much data. This means that, let's say, for example, even you have 100 vehicles, 1,000 vehicles, that's not that much. So it's likely a problem with your architecture. And in case you just cannot solve the problems with your architecture, you probably want starting from a managed database by AWS, for example, you probably want to have a pipeline where you have Lambda functions getting the AWS Lambda functions getting the location update, and then you want to update the database directly from the Lambda function. This scales quite well, and you shouldn't have problems. But if you have problems with your infrastructure, you will see these problems in the real-time dashboard or anywhere you consume the data. So it's still something that requires a good review from the architecture perspective.
So because Jenny already gave a really good take on the architecture perspective, I want to give another point of view, which is, I don't know if you've done it already, but instead of assuming it's a tech issue, is to actually look at the process. And beyond, when I say the process, I say beyond the whatever application or system you're using. So really look at the entire flow. This is usually done by what we call a service blueprint, where you look at all the parties involved. Like if there's a driver and a customer and a delivery center, you look at all these things and you map the entire flow, exactly how things are happening, and you start understanding what is working well and what's not working well. This because you might have identified there is a lag, but we need to identify what's causing that lag, right? Is it really just a tech, or is that a human error at some point? So this is the kind of lens that will allow you to understand that a bit more. Another thing that would be good to understand is in this case, what's the definition of real time? What's the expectation? Do they actually need like a ping every second, or do you just need to understand when the vehicle reaches a center, right? All of these things might help to understand the problem better and shape a solution, because it might not be that you need to throw a lot of tech at it, but just make sure that people are better informed, right? Whether there's a driver or a customer. And you'll see, like, the logistics platform sometimes is more about, less about like sending a ping to the second, but keeping people informed, right? And saying, okay, this was last updated 2 minutes ago, right? So that already gives enough information to the accuracy of what they are looking on the screen.
Interesting take. Thank you, Alfonso. Redian, you've got your hand up. Did you want to add something else?
Yeah, just one thing that just popped in my head from what Eugenia mentioned about AWS Lambdas. I remember in a past project that we were doing something similar, not necessarily in logistics. Lambdas were a bit of a pain for us in the past, especially due to cold starts, depending on how frequent is your sensors reporting those pings to your Lambdas. You might want to be aware of those cold starts. I know AWS has introduced provision concurrency that in a way fixes that. But in addition to that, you might also want to do a bit of a cost comparison. So in our case, for example, we started straight away with serverless and Lambdas. And then due to the volume of its invocations, we then did some calculations, and it was considerably cheaper for us to spin up some microservice on EC2 instances and serving traffic from dedicated cloud machines, rather than having Lambdas serve that traffic. So you might also want to do that cost comparison depending on your traffic, because sometimes, you know, lambdas are generally a little bit more expensive than well, it depends on the volume. So if the volume of requests coming in it's considerable, then maybe a dedicated that machine could do the job cheaper and maybe more efficient. But yeah, all very good suggestions, and yeah, thanks for the questions, and hopefully we were able to help at all.
Thank you very much, fellas. Really appreciate that. Have you got time? We are now 1 minute over the line, which means we need to shut shop for the day. But have we got time for some quick parting words? Let's start with Afonso, then Eugenio, and last but not least, Redian, please, if you've got time.
What would you like us to cover, Anton?
Just any parting words, anything you want to leave us with, either about product and tech or building in general, or since it's the beginning of the year, anything.
Right.
Closure.
So, I got one. Especially based on the last question, what I would say is treat everything as an hypothesis, right? Especially when it's an early stage company and you want to make sure that every resource and dollar spent or pound spent is put to good use. Everything is an assumption, so explore other options. So in the last one, the last question, assume that it's a tech issue, and might very well be. Maybe there's a lot of research on that already, but sometimes it might not be, right? So really stop and try to look at whatever symptom, whatever thing you observed from different perspectives, so that you can really go to the root of the problem. Is that indeed like a tech issue and a performance issue, or is it something along the process that is failing, and then what do you see is just like a second order consequence?
Eugenio, or
Sorry, guys, I lost a small part of your voice. What was the question?
no, just any parting words before I let you go, if you have any. If not, don't worry about it.
Oh, be lean. Simplify. I always see like software houses trying to add new features on their own, or in general, there's an attempt to expand whatever you're trying to build, and instead the key thing is the opposite. You need to reduce as much as possible.
Keep it simple. Good man. Last but not least, Redian, any thoughts before we let you go?
Yeah, consistency. My parting words would be around consistency. Be consistent. Think about sustainability. Try and build things in a way that it will set you up for success without sacrificing too much of your health, mental health, and everything that else in the mix. But yeah, try and figure out those internal motivating factors that make you wake up from bed in the morning and chase those dreams, but be consistent. Yeah, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. And thanks for having us. Hopefully it was useful.
Right, well, thank you very much for this today, gentlemen. Really appreciate it. Huge thanks to everyone that tuned in. This was Startup Product and Tech Q&A 177. And just before my parting words, two quick things. Number one, we currently run 6 regular sessions: Monday's Talent, Tuesday's Product and Tech, Wednesday's Growth, Thursday's Fundraising, second Friday of each month is UK Startup Law, and third Friday of each month is UK Startup Finances. They're currently all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time, all available on our site, startuptoscaleup.club. All you have to do is simply go on to any future session there, click join, quick registration on Luma, and there you'll find the link. All our sessions are audio only, which means you can tune in and join us from anywhere via any platform or device. They're all free, and they've all got panels with some of the top people in our ecosystem, and we're very grateful to them for their help. In terms of, another thing that is important is that we've got a community on WhatsApp, and it's groups for you to connect with fellow founders, investors, operators, and of course our second to none panelists. Hopefully we'll see you tomorrow for Startup Growth Q&A, where we'll help or seek to help founders grow from 0 to 1, or even 0 to hero for that matter. Now, as far as my parting words are concerned, just remember the startup journey can be both exciting but also quite challenging. So try to have some fun in the meantime, and be kind to yourself and everyone else for that matter too. Otherwise, thanks again, and God bless you all. Bye-bye for now.